Wouldn't you like a ring, my dear? Said Uncle Andrew to Polly. Do you mean one of those yellow or green ones? Said Polly. Not a green one, said Uncle Andrew. I'm afraid I can't give the green ones away, but I'd be delighted to give you any of the yellow ones. Come and try one on. Polly had now quite got over her fright, and there was certainly something strangely attractive about those bright rings. She moved over to the tray, but Diggory had seen an eager, almost a greedy look on his uncle's face. "Polly, don't be a fool," he shouted. "Don't touch them." It was too late. Exactly as he spoke, Polly's hand went out to touch one of the rings, and immediately there was no Polly. "Congratulate me, my dear boy," said Uncle Andrew, rubbing his hands. "My experiment has succeeded. The little girl's gone, right out of the world." "What have you done to her?" "Sent her to another place." "Are you going to bring Polly back?" asked Diggory. "I was going to tell you when you so rudely interrupted me," said Uncle Andrew, "that the green rings draw you back. But Polly hasn't got a green ring." "No," said Uncle Andrew with a cruel smile. "Then she can't get back," shouted Diggory, "and it's exactly the same as if you murdered her." "She can get back," said Uncle Andrew, "if someone else will go after her wearing a yellow ring himself and taking 2 green rings, one to bring himself back and one to bring her back." And now, of course, Diggory saw the trap in which he was caught. Then he took a deep breath and picked up the rings. And he thought then, as he always thought afterwards too, that he could not decently have done anything else. Uncle Andrew and his study vanished instantly. The next thing Diggory knew was that there was a soft green light coming down on him from above, and darkness below. "I believe I'm in water," said Diggory. "Or underwater." Almost at once he could feel that he was rushing upwards. Then his head suddenly came out into the air, and he found himself scrambling ashore, out onto smooth, grassy ground, at the edge of a pool in a wood. There were dozens of others, a pool every few yards, as far as his eye could reach. After Diggory had looked at the wood for a long time, he noticed that there was a girl lying on her back at the foot of a tree a few yards away. Her eyes were nearly shut, as if she were just between sleeping and waking. Then she spoke in a dreamy, contented sort of voice. "I think I've seen you before," she said. "I rather think so too," said Diggory. "Have you been here long?" "Oh, always," said the girl. "So have I," said Diggory. "No, you haven't," said she. "I've just seen you come up out of that pool." "Yes, I suppose I did," said Diggory with a puzzled air. "Look here," said the girl presently. "I wonder, did we ever really meet before? I had a sort of idea of a boy and a girl like us, living somewhere quite different, and doing all sorts of things. Perhaps it was only a dream." "I've had that same dream, I think," said Diggory, "about a boy and a girl living next door, and something about crawling among rafters." "Look," cried Diggory, "the ring! You've got one on your finger, and so have I." The girl now sat up. They stared very hard at one another, trying to remember, and then at exactly the same moment she shouted out, "Mr. Ketterley," and he shouted out, "Uncle Andrew," and they knew who they were and began to remember the whole story. "How do we get home?" asked Polly. "Go back into the pool, I expect, but I've just had a really wonderful idea," said Diggory. "Why, If we can get back to our own world by jumping into this pool, mightn't we get somewhere else by jumping into one of the others? But I thought we were already in your Uncle Andrew's other world or other place or whatever he called it. Oh, bother Uncle Andrew, interrupted Diggory. I don't believe he knows anything about it. He only talked of one other world. But suppose there were dozens. You mean this wood might be only one of them? No, I don't believe this wood's a world at all. I think it's just a sort of in-between place. The wood between the worlds, said Polly dreamily. Come on, said Diggory. Which pool shall we try? Let's try that one. They stood with beating hearts and rather scared faces on the edge of the unknown pool and held hands and said, 1, 2, 3, go! Down and down they rushed, first through darkness and then through a mass of vague and whirling shapes. Then suddenly they felt that they were standing on something solid. A moment later, everything came into focus and they were able to look about them. They were standing on a flat paved surface and buildings rose all around them. They were in a sort of courtyard. The walls rose very high all round that courtyard. They had many great windows in them, through which you saw nothing but black darkness. Lower down there were great pillared arches yawning blackly like the mouths of railway tunnels. The stone of which everything was built seemed to be red. It was obviously very old. Do you think anyone lives here? Said Diggory at last in a whisper.